Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling, shake it up Saturday. Yes, it is that day of the week where we do something new, try different things, go different routes to the grocery store. And being a holiday weekend, whether you're celebrating Canada Day, where that was yesterday, or 4th of July, which is on Monday, whatever you're doing in between those days, maybe you're out for the weekend, you're having a holiday weekend, you are away, you are shaking up your weekend by being on vacation. Yay! So, what are you doing online watching this? Gotcha. As you can see, I still have internet connection. I still don't know my box. I don't have any notification that parcels have arrived, but tomorrow I am going to go to my mail place and check because they've told me that, when we're sorting, if there's packages that will fit in your box, we stick them in your box. We don't put any notices there and we don't notify you. And I'm like, okay. So, because I didn't have time to do it today. Absolutely no time to do it today. So today, and we have a new question of the month for you. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. So much fun time. And you know what I loved about today? It was Mastermind Day. Yes, I actually get 2 this month. We get 2 Mastermind group meetings this month. Yay! And we had one today, and it was awesome. It was awesome. We had some great discussions in there. We got to hear everybody's. We started off by hearing everybody's wins. What were your wins since we last met? And there was some amazing wins in there, and stuff where I just wanted to jump up and down. But of course, sitting in a dining booth, you can't exactly jump up and down. But I got to jump up and down in my seat some, so that was pretty cool. But we've got an amazing group of people, and some of their wins were like, wow. It was. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was small or large. I got to celebrate wins with people, so that was awesome. My win that I had in there was that since April the 6th, I have officially released 16 pounds into the universe for someone who needs them. And what I didn't tell them is that 6 of those in the last 2 weeks. So anyway, but and I had a couple of other ones in there that I can't talk about right now, but it was just for their ears only. There are some ones that are just for their ears only, but it was awesome. We had a fun time. I always have a fun time whenever I get to it. It doesn't matter how deep we go. I always have a fun time with these things. And there's times that, we've met at the Mastermind Group, we've gone very deep. There's been tears shared, but it's all okay. I still have had a good time because these are just an incredible group of people that range from all sorts of different backgrounds, different businesses, and they all have, even though we have different goals, we all have the same type of goals as well. So even though they're different, there are some similarities. But yeah, so I had my day shaken a little bit with hearing people's wins, and then we got into some good discussions and everything else. So talking about opportunities and things. So that was really, really cool meeting. And then after that, later on today, I got to catch up with a friend I haven't had a chance to talk with for a while. And we had a great conversation and came up with some ideas. And I love talking with my friend because we almost end up in brainstorming time at times. This one wasn't one of those times. We just had a really good conversation. And I just love this person, and we just had and to be able just to spend just a small amount of time with her was awesome. That was awesome. And then I had a little bit of work to do, which had nothing to do with the jobs that I have. It was just something completely different. So I got that done. And then I was sitting there and I'm thinking, feeling kind of, and I had lunch. I was like, I feel kind of tired. My energy was drained. I couldn't figure out why. And then I'm like, I looked down, and looking down was my eating plan sitting here on the table now that I have it printed. And I looked down and I went, oh, I haven't had breakfast yet. Breakfast today was oatmeal. And then I thought, oh, but I have had the snack, had the lunch. Actually, looking at this, and I've had that snack. So I've had lunch and 2 snacks so far today. 'Cause I didn't get breakfast. I didn't get time to cook breakfast this morning. It was oatmeal, and I wanted to. And since I burned it last time, I wanted to be here just in case. And I totally forgot to put that on. I guess that's dinner tonight. Because looking at this, I have. Oh, hang on. Yeah, I kind of sort of had dinner earlier on today when I'm looking at this, what there was to eat. So I did do one of my flip-flop days where I put my dinner down near towards breakfast because it was quick and easy to grab because I had some chicken already cooked and my dinner tonight was chicken. So kind of sort of had that. So tonight I get to have berry almond oatmeal. Yum. Basically, I just cook up the oatmeal and stick some frozen berries on top, but I actually have fresh berries instead. So we're going to do fresh berries with my oatmeal tonight. And I don't put the almonds. I'm not a big fan of nuts in my oatmeal, but it'll be steel cut oats with some fresh berries. I've got blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries. So that'll be on top for dinner tonight. So yeah, we had a flip-flop day. So I did actually have, I still have to have my non-starchy vegetable of my choice. Yeah, I haven't done that. Okay, we've still got a little bit of food left. But we've got, yeah, at 7 o'clock. Oh. As if he's trying to look out the window, but the curtain's not being cooperative with her. It's bad as if. I know, you want OUT. Okay, yeah, so that was why, because my whole eating plan today was screwed up. And but then after I got off with my friend and finished that little bit of work I had to finish, I then thought, oh, I'll go take a nap. And it was, by that stage, it was already 4 o'clock. And I was like, wow, because we got out of the mastermind at 1-ish. And then I think it was like 2 when I met my friend, and then I got a little bit of work done. So the day kind of just flew by, but, and I still have internet right now. So I'm sort of like, yes. I have a feeling, because usually they charge our accounts on the 4th of the month. So I have a feeling that's when, and of course the 4th being 4th of July, that I may wake up Tuesday morning with, oh, and that was one thing that this is the weirdest thing. I have to say, this was the weirdest thing. So we're sitting here this morning on the Zoom meeting for the mastermind group and stuff. And like I said, my day got shaken up, just with what happened with the mastermind, with our discussion and everything else, talking with my friend afterwards. But then during the mastermind thing, I'm on Zoom and all that, and all of a sudden I noticed I am the only picture moving. Everybody else is frozen, and I'm like, oh crap, have I lost the internet? And I'm like looking down at my little device here, and it's still got the 3 little bars on there to say that I had Wi-Fi service, and it was sitting there, and it was, it's rather warm. No wonder it crashed. And I'm trying to figure out what the heck, why is, and so I was trying to get it to tether to my phone. The computer wasn't tethering to my phone properly, because I got booted out of Zoom, and I was trying to get back in, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I was like, well, this has got 3 bars on there. Maybe if I power it off and power it back on, let's see what happens. So I picked it up, I pulled the power cord out of it, and all of a sudden, everything on my computer just started going, and bang, I was back in the Zoom. This had recharged, and I had forgotten to unplug it, and it got annoyed that it was still plugged in, and so it kind of shut down a little. It didn't shut down, but it did get a little warm, so I think it overheated itself. That was a little protective mechanism. So as soon as I unplugged it, the internet came flying back up, and we were back online, and been back online ever since. And the lights went down on the power thing, so I recharged it back up. I took it out as soon as it finished recharging, and it still feels very hot, so I might have to probably because I forgot to turn it off last night. Doesn't help either. So yeah, we'll make sure we turn that off tonight. See what happens. But like I said, if I don't have internet tomorrow or Monday, I'm fine. It's just that I absolutely have to have it by Tuesday. So yeah, that was a little mild panic today because I was taking some very specific notes, and I kind of missed out on some of it. But it was all good. We got back online. Everything went smoothly, everything else. But it's currently 107 degrees outside, and somebody wants to go for a WALK. And I'm sort of like, really? And there's no breeze blowing. I've had the awning out all day. But yeah, today it was all about getting shaken up. So what happened today where did you get stirred? Did you get shaken? I don't know. I just had 007 on the brain today, which is why you had shaken, not stirred on there. Actually, I kind of feel like watching a James Bond movie tonight. Maybe we'll do that. Might do that. So we have a new Tell Your Story question of the month. So we're doing daily ones, but that was getting a little too much and not giving people enough time to write their answers out. So so for July, your question of the month is, are there any stories about famous or infamous relatives in your family? Are there stories about famous or infamous relatives in your family? Have you heard any rumors? How do you even start looking to see if you're related to anybody famous or infamous? I already knew that I had a great uncle, a great great uncle, a great granduncle, who was very infamous. He was actually arrested for treason during World War II in Sydney, Australia. He had actually moved over. He had gone from New Zealand to Australia, and he was living over there. And there's a book called The Most Dangerous Men in Australia, and then it's got a question. It's a question. The Most Dangerous Men in Australia, and each chapter is about a different person, and he actually has it. There's actually a chapter in there about him, and I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. And I was sitting there and I was reading this chapter, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy was terrible. And just reading the book, I'm sort of like, and Mark Twain has a saying that that truth is stranger than fiction. That's why fiction has to make sense. Because if people were reading this as a fiction book, they would think it was all made up. It wouldn't make sense to them. It would have to be sanitized in some way to make it more believable and everything else. But so my great granduncle, he was a tyrant. He was like one of the worst landlords ever. He would turn the water off, and this chapter just said thing after thing after this, one thing after another, and how he got arrested for treason during World War II. He was a sympathizer with the Nazis. He somehow ended up with, was given the care of some funds from the Nazis, which he ended up embezzling. So I don't know how he ended up with this money from the Nazis, but somehow he ended up being in care of this money from the Nazis, and he ended up embezzling it from them. He claimed to be German. He is of German descent. His dad was German. He's actually my half granduncle, I guess you want to call. Yeah, because my great great grandmother, my second great grandmother, she when she got married twice. In her first marriage, she had my great grandmother, and then she got married again, and the second husband is who she had my great granduncle with. So kind of there's a half thing in there. So yeah, his dad's side of the family did descend from Germany, but he was not German. Then he tried to claim that he was from the US, and they asked him to produce documents and that, and he said no, it was all destroyed during the San Francisco earthquake that they had in 1906, 1908, somewhere around there, and that all the records were destroyed. And so there's even photographs of the index cards that was sent about correspondence sent between the New Zealand embassy and the US embassy and the Australian embassy and the US embassy about this guy looking for the records and things, and none coming back. Nobody wanted him, and of course they tried to extradite him to Germany. Germans didn't want him. They said he's not one of us. They tried to extradite him to the US, same thing. And he was actually born and raised in New Zealand, and there was no extradition between Australia and New Zealand at the time. It was sort of like, if he's from New Zealand and Australia, it's your problem, not ours, and vice versa. So like I said, he was arrested for treason, and so I thought, okay, there's this book that is written, and there's these stories, and there's this whole chapter about this guy. So I was like, all right, how can I prove any of this? Can I prove these stories? And so I started doing research, and I actually came across documents online of his actual arrest records, where he was arrested for treason in Sydney. And he was arrested one day. He was then somehow released the next day, and then he was rearrested 3 days later. And I actually have photographs. Somebody put the images online, and so I actually have photographs. I have images of the actual arrest paperwork, the whole documentation, everything. He was arrested for treason, and I don't think in the book I mentioned treason, and then there was these pictures of these index cards of correspondence that had gone backwards and forwards with the U.S. Embassy and regarding his citizenship in the U.S. and all that sort of thing. And so as I started digging and looking for stuff specifically for him, I started finding records that were backing up some of what was in there, including newspaper articles. So I was sort of like, oh my gosh. But the fun thing, the kind of eye-opening thing is that I got engrossed in reading this chapter about this guy, and I thought, this guy's terrible. Oh my gosh, the stuff that he's done and everything, and it's just like amazing me all the stuff that he he tried to get away with, and everything else. And then I'm sort of like sat back and went, oh crap, he's related to me. You kind of have this sort of like aha moment, like, oh my gosh, this is one of my relatives. So do you have any stories in your family like that? Last year when I was doing one of my week-long genealogy courses, we work with familysearch.org a lot, and one of the cool apps that they have there is that you join the group for the convention, and you can look to see who you are related to. And it's really funny because you go into rooms and stuff and go, oh, I recognize your name. We're supposed to be related, or we may be related, was sort of the thing. We didn't say, oh, we're related. No, there's always we are supposed to be, or we may be related. There's always a question about it until we can actually prove it. And that tells us, the distant cousins and all of that, 3 times removed, or 10th cousin twice removed, or whatever. And of course, because we haven't done our own research to prove it, it's always we may be related, or oh, according to this, it says that we're related. And we all know that unless we prove it, it's not true. That's just how we are. And what is this? Somebody's going to be interested in this. Zeph, what's this? A treat? Get her on camera. Come here. Up. Come here. Up. Good girl. Are you going to come over this way? Say hi to everybody. Good girl. Yeah. Can you say hi? Here we go. You got your foot on the table. Yeah, it's only because Mama said you could. Yeah. He's my Zippy girl. Come here. Just like, no, that's all you've got. I want to get down. Okay, there you go. Good girl. I had some treats up here earlier because so a friend could say hi. I have to. No, it was just the one. I'm sorry, sweetie girl. All of that just for that one little treat. I know. We'll go for a walk in a few minutes, okay? So let it cool down a little bit. We'll let the sun set and then go when it's dark. It'll be cooler. Or do you really want to go out in 107 degrees? We are currently 81 degrees inside here. So anyway, so they give us this app that we can use, and you can go and play around with it in this thing like famous people, and it comes with all these famous, and then you can break them down. Are you related to any presidents, first ladies, actors, European royalty, politicians? What else was in there? They've got these different categories and things, and so according to this thing, I am supposed to be related to Princess Diana. She's like my 10th cousin, first time removed, or something like that. And also like, you're right. But the cool part is you can print out the PDFs of the links, so you can follow the link. Because when you say, it says, okay, if you go to your mother's side, then your mother, and it actually walks you through whether you go maternal or paternal side as you're going through the tree all the way back to this common ancestor. And so I thought, well, how did they go back? Because when I research on Family Search, they only take my tree back this far, and that's as far as I have researched, and that's as far as I can find. So how is it they've gone the rest of the way, and they've picked it up here, and they've gone all the way up here, and then all the way there on the other side? How have they done that? So, and yet when I'm looking online for the relative that I've gone as far back as I can go with that particular leg, how have they picked it up? So what I did is I downloaded so I went in the ones I was interested in, downloaded the PDFs, and then what I did, and so then what I've done is that on Ancestry, I've started a tree. So I picked out one of them, and I started a tree and made it private so nobody can see it. And I've put in the information that they had in this PDF that they had put together in Family Search. And it's kind of interesting when you go back through it. Like you'll get the thing is like you get this little warning thing coming up. This person was born before the mother was. Do you still want to before the parent was? Do you still want to put them in at this birth date? And I'm sort of like, oh, a hiccup. Or this parent was only 10 years old when they had this child. Are you sure that this is correct? So it actually questions you on dates when you're putting in a birth date or a death date and all that sort of stuff. It will actually question you on things like that. So I was finding some of these inconsistencies, not on my bit going up to the comment, but coming down the other side. And I thought, well, okay, this is going to be interesting because Princess Diana's family tree is a well-known thing. I just need to find the right site that has the official tree on there. And I remember when she got married to Prince Charles, they proved through the family trees, like they had the comparison that she actually has more royal blood in her than Prince Charles did. And so that was kind of interesting in these different articles that I read at the time when they got married back in 1980, 81, somewhere around there. And so it was kind of interesting going back through that and finding those trees again. But there's different websites that you can go to where different family trees are listed for famous people. And there's historical figures, there's political leaders, there's actors, actresses, European royalty, all sorts of different famous areas around that you can go. And like some of the websites you can go to is like biography.com. They have short biographies there. Infoplease.com. They have, I'm looking here, over 30,000 notable people. Biography has like 25,000 famous people ranging from actors and actresses to political leaders and historical figures. There's biographical information for actors, actresses, and other individuals associated with the movies can be found at eOnline in the Internet Movie Database. Then you can also go to places like Family Tree, Ancestry.com, that sort of stuff to find further evidence. And then there's other like Hollywood Underground, political graveyards, Find a Grave. Although Find a Grave, I find an interesting thing because some people on that try to go and make, like they'll have a picture of the tombstone of the person that you're looking for. Then in the notes area, they have all of these other people that are related to this one person. And I've actually found inconsistencies in some of those that have been put there. So you do have to be careful on any information. And to prove anything, I like to have three different sources. But I also follow the genealogical proof standard. There's a little book, and I don't have it next to me because it's with my genealogical books over there. But there's a little book, it's about this thick, which has the genealogical proof standards. In order for you to say yes, you have to meet these particular criteria, in order to say yes, there is definitely a connection here. And it goes about what resources are you using, what resources are you using, and that sort of thing. When it comes to finding the not so good relatives, the infamous ones, there are the Federal Bureau of Prisons maintains a database for inmates' records prior to 1982. Let's see what else they got here. Maintains a database of former inmates' records prior to 1982 can only be accessed by mail. That's interesting. And then it's got this, where am I on? Thoughtco.com. They've got here different places that you can go to research infamous and famous relatives. So do you have any of those in your tree? What stories have you been told about famous connections in your tree, and what can you prove? Have you proven them? Have you gone back and proven them? So that's your question for the month. Are there any stories about famous or infamous relatives in your tree? And your challenge for the month is go prove it. Go find out, are they true stories? Do you have documentation to put? Where do they fit in your tree? Do you have documentation to back it all up? Or is it just one of those fairy tale myth things that you're not quite sure about. Like I had one client who told me that she'd been told that she was related to a particular famous historical figure, and we found out that she couldn't be direct related, couldn't be a direct descendant from this particular one because he never had any kids. And she was sort of like, oh, thank goodness for that. But I said you could still be related in another way, and we went back to her fifth great. We went back to her fifth great grandparents. We haven't really given up the search, but that was as far back as we went, was to her fifth great grandparents, and there could still be another piece that goes up there that then links across to this other person's tree. So I said, so there may still be a connection there, but this is as far back as we've gone, and we've found no connection at that point. Doesn't mean to say it doesn't exist. It just may take us digging a little further. But when we were researching that portion, we found another connection to another historical figure in her tree, and we found we actually found a connection, a very strong connection to a incident that to a very historic event that was taking place. But we haven't actually found the direct connect to the people involved in the event. It just happens to be they were in the right place at the right time as that event was taking place, and the probability of them being related to what was happening at the time to that event is pretty high. So we just need to find. Sometimes it's just little missing pieces, and it's like I have another client who is we're researching part of her family for her, and there's one link. I mean, I have a pretty strong lead on where to go based on information that's been passed to her down through the years. We have narrowed down who we think the person is that is involved in her tree. There's just one missing link, and if we could find that missing link, that's the key to the whole thing. So we've got her tree to a certain point, and then beyond that is all, at this point, kind of theory that we've sort of almost completely proved. There's just one piece of information that we need, and if we can find that certificate, that'll lock in everything. So it's interesting where, because all these other events took place at this particular time, and in researching, we found links that this is what was happening at the time, and yes, this is the person that could be in your tree, and we've built that other person's tree out a little bit, but actually officially connecting the two, that we're missing one key piece of evidence. And if we can find that one key piece, that'll blow the whole thing wide open for us and tell us whether we're about 95% certain that there is a connection between these two people. We just need one piece of paper that tells us that it's true, or not. And then but if we find that one piece of paper, it will blow everything right open. Either the partial tree that we've gone and built around this other person, for whom we suspect is connected to this other person, we just need that one piece of paper that'll tell us that just that we're missing one document. And if we can get that one document, that'll solve a lot of issues, solve a lot of problems. It will solve it's basically the missing piece of the puzzle. You think you do a jigsaw puzzle and then you're missing that one piece to complete the puzzle. That's what we're missing, just that one piece. And if we could find that one document, that will complete the picture for us. So anyway, there's so much fun stuff that you can do when you're trying to find out if you're connected to a famous person or infamous person. Those are the mysteries I love to unravel, because it's amazing. It's interesting what you find along the way and what you can give people. Like, they give you as much information as they have, but sometimes when you unearth information that they may not know about, and you let them know, hey, look, I've unearthed this, not sure if it's in there or not, and they suddenly go, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about blah, 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 and then they go off on another story, which pulls this piece of information in. That's a good question, Kathy. Kathy's put here, how are you going to find that document? It's probably going to involve a trip to an actual place of records. to see if we can find the document in their official records, because we're actually looking for a birth registration, and they only have up until a certain year online, and it happens to be the year this person was born, but there could have been a cutoff date. And because we know that one person who was born in that year we can find their thing, but they were early in the year. But anybody who was born after a certain date, their records are not online. So it's going to involve some writing of letters to government agencies in a different country to say, hey, we're looking for this particular person, but we know that the document must exist. It was either the birth registration was either done at the time of the birth, or it was a delayed registration because it didn't get recorded at the time, but then later on, this person that we're connecting to had to go traveling, and they needed to have a copy of their birth certificate. So there's going to be some government agencies that we're going to have to write letters to see if we can get them to unearth the documentation for us. So it's kind of fun, and yeah. It may involve a trip actually to the country and going and knocking on doors of areas where the records are kept and saying, "Can I have a look?" So we shall see. And everybody involved has passed. So it depends on how. Even if you can produce death certificates and stuff, depends on if they want to allow you in. It depends on. It depends on a number of things, and for this particular person, there will be no baptism certificate. So it's another good question, Kathy. Yes, you can look at baptism certificates, but in this particular case, there will not be any, because of the circumstances surrounding how everything came about. But so I can tell you without with 100% certainty that there are certain records that are not available because of the circumstances, and it's going to involve probably some boots on the ground and going and knocking on a door and saying, hey, can I have a look at your birth records from around this time, and even the ones that were delayed. It's a very interesting puzzle to do, and especially when it's in a foreign country as well, because there's a whole different, when you go into different countries and things, that every country has their own rules and regulations as to what information they will release, who they will release it to, and at what point they will release it. Like for New Zealand, you can't look up any births unless the person is 100 years old or has passed and been passed for a certain number of years. Then you can look up their birth certificates or their birth records online, or if they were stillborn, you can find those records. And if they were, and then for marriage records, it's 80 years. No, sorry. Hang on. Yeah, no, it's 80 years, because I just found my great uncle's marriage certificate. You had to wait 80 years for them. No, 50 years. Hang on. I'm trying to remember no, that was 50 years. Hang on, now I've got to remember all of this. They have this list that says, births, you can't look up anything that was less than 100 years old. Death is 50 years. And unless the person is of a certain age when they passed, like if they died within the last 50 years, you may not find it, but if they were over a certain age, then yes, you will. There's all these sorts of things. There was a 50-year, an 80-year, and a 100-year thing. I think the 80-year was on the marriage because I did find my great uncle's marriage certificate, and I had to wait. To be able to see that one online, so that was kind of fun. And how foreign is foreign? Anything outside your country. So if you're here in the US and it's outside the US, it's foreign. So that's how foreign is, Kathy. You want to know how foreign is foreign? Anything outside of the country that you are in. So, yeah. So Canada, even though Canada is connected to the US, that would still be foreign records in a foreign country. So basically international. If you've got to cross a border and show a passport, it's a foreign country. And that's different rules and different countries have different rules and regulations when it comes to their records. And even here in the United States, we have discovered that there is different protocol in different states to get birth records as well. And that's depending on whether the person is alive or dead. And if you don't know, then in some states you're basically screwed, because you can't get a birth You can't get a copy of a parent's birth certificate if you don't know where they are, and you don't know if they're dead or alive, and you're trying to track them. There's certain states that won't allow that, and it's very interesting when you go to different states within the US that they all have different rules when it comes to showing you documentation on certain things. So it just makes things interesting and more fun. I'm not going to say complicated because it doesn't get complicated. It's a puzzle that needs to be solved, and in some ways, in some areas, you can get around some of the restrictions that they have, and other areas you cannot. So it depends on the circumstances of why you are looking and who is inquiring and that sort of thing. So anyway, I'm out of here. I got to take a DOG for WALK. She's looking at me like she's on alert. She's in patrol mode watching me. And yeah, Kathy, you are right. Someone somewhere knows something, and that is true. When it comes to genealogy, someone somewhere knows the story, knows the true story behind things. Even if everybody involved has since passed, there is somebody alive who still knows the basis of that story. And some stories have been passed down through generations, and they have been told this never leaves the family. It does not leave the family, and they just mean their direct line. You can't tell your cousins, you can't tell my siblings. So there's all sorts of different things around that as well, where even within a family, there's a story that goes down the family, and there is somebody in the family who knows the true story. But for whatever reason, they have been sworn to secrecy that they're not allowed to tell other members of the family that story. So it's kind of interesting to, you just got to dig a little deeper and come at it from different angles and just get a little creative in your research and things. But anyway, I'm out of here. Go have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow for Serenity Sunday. And will I have internet tomorrow or not? Who knows? But even if I don't, I hopefully can figure out how to use live on my phone. But we shall see if we'll still have internet tomorrow or not. But anyway, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow for Serenity Sunday. Hei konera.